Hello, Jordan Hyman here, the SVP of Sales, the East Coast for Nativo. I'm joined by my new friend, Anna. I'll let her introduce herself here as well.
Hi, new friend. I'm Anna Andjelic. I am former Global Chief Brand and Chief Marketing Officer at Esprit and former Chief Brand Officer at Banana Republic. And I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Well, so nice to meet you. I appreciate everything you have said earlier today at Brand Innovators here in New York. I was gonna ask a little bit of a different question out of the gate. So you've had a decorated career, and I just did some trolling and LinkedIn stalking. So, but we're talking about AI. I'm curious if you were 20 years old and starting your career over, knowing what you know right here, right now about AI and the power of what it can do and what it may still do, would you do things differently? Would you have the same career path? And even if you would, what would you do differently along the way?
That's a great question. I really like it, and I think that I think that it's kind of like you start from different layers. On the most basic layer, AI allows you to amplify what humans are already doing and to do it more efficiently. And as I touched upon in my previous talk, which comes like, oh, what is the CRM? How do you segment an email database? How do you really granularly find out what is the right message and right sales discount level for a different consumer groups, and that can go down to a personal level.
Yes.
So what we are doing now, we are like, oh, what is their latest purchase? How long ago was it? What is the average order value? What exactly did they buy? And that's how you basically go and say, hey, we're going to send a reminder, or we're going to have a 10% off, or we're going to follow up with new arrivals and so on. Further, but it's not like, you see how blunt that is? It's not like fine-tuned. So I think that would be such an amazing revelation to be able to so granularly, very quickly and very responsively kind of in a real time see, hey, this person did this and they did this and this before, and we know exactly which category they belong in, so send them this like new item that's just arriving, or give them an option to pre-order it or something like that. So I think in that sense, that database segmentation, CRM overall as a discipline would allow unbelievable granularity and then unbelievable personalization. So that's number one. The second is also having the, because right now we don't have a mass audience anymore. We have like sub cultures, we have niches, we have taste communities.
Personalization.
So basically how you go and how you say, oh, so those guys, they're really into, I don't know, they love Liquid Death, and they maybe love Vacation Sunscreen, and they maybe love Banana Republic or Esprit. So when we talk to them, we're going to talk to them through the 80s nostalgia because they're really into that aesthetic. And then you go to another group and they're like, you know what, we're just going to talk to denim, for example, or they want dresses or tail. So, like in that sense, like what you put on social media, what you put on in your performance media, in your digital media, in your Google search results, in your sort of pre-rolls, like what is the call to action, what is the copy, what is the creative that goes in, again, can be really fine-tuned. So that is the thing. Then customer service, obviously, that would be much easier. You would probably have much more satisfied customers.
Maybe, perhaps, yes.
Because some of them are like, oh, like we had at Rebecca Mink of people showing up in the corporate headquarters to return something.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like Rebecca Mink and they get the address.
Can
and
they even take their products back?
Well, we're like, no, you have to go down to Soho.
We don't do that here.
And like, you know what I mean? But that's kind of another step on their journey. And then, so that is also what would be like much easier, and like it would free a lot of my time and my team's time to do more creative things.
Totally. Yeah, you could have spent a lot more time on the passion part of it and maybe less time on the things that are challenging.
But they're nuts and bolts of business.
Totally. You've hit on this. You posted something, I think maybe yesterday, about the ability to speak to lots of people all at one time, the digital universe, that kind of a thing, which is interesting because, again, at an event like this at Brand Innovators, so much is about personalization. I mean, we're Nativo, we're content. It's all, how do we get to a one-to-one so that you get something different from me? But it sounds like, I don't want to misinterpret, but there's really a thought of how do you to the notion of 2-for-1 shopping. How do you have a concept that lots of different generations and people can all engage with and think about and do it at one time, even if there's a personal reaction with it, but you're not really marketing one-to-one necessarily. If I get that right, you're putting out something that a brand can own, even if it's one word. What's the one word for your brand that everyone then gets to understand simply? Is AI helping with that? I mean,
no, I think it's less about AI. It's more about having the brand universe, that creative universe that has one anchor and one emotion. So for Esprit, that was fun. For Banana Republic was expedition and imagination. So everything that comes from there needs to go back there. So even when you have, what is that anchor? What is that archetype? Yeah. For Banana Republic, it's an adventurer, explorer, but in imagination. So it becomes a little surreal. It's like literally, it's about human imagination. It was not literal about going on a safari, you know?
Yes.
You can go to on a safari in downtown Manhattan. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of that. And then for Esprit, it was like everything is like, it had to be playful, everything mischievous, everything is a little cheeky, you know? So that means every single touch point, even when you go 2-for-1 refers to strategy getting two different generations, Gen X and Gen Z, through the same ethos, to the same aesthetic in two different ways, but going to the same place. So that is the entire idea. You need to really know who you are as a brand and what your aesthetic is, and then you can create many doors in the brand.
I love that. I love that. It's a simpler way. There's a couple great books about this over time where it's the hardest part is figuring out what is the one word.
Exactly.
Is it cheeky? Is it convenience for Amazon, et cetera, et cetera?
Exactly. Magic for Disney or so on. And then everything you do delivers that.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit about just how people will shop, I guess, and whether AI, I assume, will have impact here, but how will my wife and daughter,
it still does.
How will they?
It already does. Don't you think like Shein or Zara, they're using AI, they're like literally, what are the social media trends that are bubbling up?
In real time.
Okay, and then go, and in case of Shein, they're so quick. They're like literally they have factories that are in like 5 square miles, from each other. Wow. So they're like, maybe crop tops or bandiere or I don't know, mini skirts are trending, make them and then put them on influencers and close that loop. So like the way your daughter is shopping is already influenced.
So interesting. And it's such a real-time feedback loop that, I mean, I don't know.
It's really compressed.
It's
exactly.
compressed.
Yeah. I mean, whatever aesthetic is showing up, if it's Tomato Girl Summer, which was last summer, or Dark Academia or Mob Wife, these are all TikTok trends, aesthetics that are emerging from the customers. And then brands respond to that. So how quickly they respond, that's the AI.
Yes. What about the like jump forward on that, like from a predictive perspective? So, I mean, those are trends that people are seeing and they're posting, and so a brand can grab it and turn it around and put it back in market. But we're at a place now, I would imagine, where a brand, Esprit, Banana, can basically say, we think that in the fall or next year or 5 years from now that this is what teenagers are going to be buying or whatever.
But that was what the fashion was always about, predicting and telling people what they're going to like. What I do actually like about what Zara and Shein are doing, like I don't like their fast fashion and how detrimental they are for the environment, and then how they change the entire fashion conversation about like clothes being consumed as content, disposable. But what I do like is responsiveness. And I do think that overall, then when you, like, if you're not a luxury fashion brand, or if you're not like a brand that has a very strong point of view, like for example you have Kate as a brand, or The Row, like that, or Brunello Cucinelli, or sporty and rich brands, they have a very signature aesthetic.
Totally.
So unless you have that, then you have to be very responsive. If not, you can just do your thing like season after season, and you don't even worry about predicting what people are going to like, because you always put forward your own aesthetic that people are going to come to. So you see, that's like very different. But when we had predictions with Zara's of the world, the J. Crew's of the world, and so on, now that's so compressed, it's becoming responsiveness, not prediction.
Yes, it's really interesting. I'm curious about the marketing and the dissemination of style and fashion going forward. We've heard comments this week. Samsung, obviously, you've got the TV team, so they're thinking about how teenagers now are going to become TV buyers at some point or not. And their core customers are 40 to 49. I think Shelley Palmer talked about, I think that walled gardens might just replace the open web at some point. But again, I'm curious about when concepts are introduced and we as human beings have different ways to interact with them, from billboards in New York City on down to our phones. What's that look like as we go forward, and what's the impact there of basically saying, here are all the options of how to reach people, but what do I actually want to do? What's effective and what will be effective in an AI-dominated world to get style and message and influence out to everyone?
I think that's an empirical question, don't you think? You know, because it all comes down to human behavior. You know, like I always like this example of shopping at Sephora, when we have like all this technology, and their technology was actually anti-technology. They had two shopping carts, two shopping baskets. One was red, and the other was black.
Yes.
And the red was like, yeah, help me. The black was like, no, I don't need any help. Because there are people who just don't like to be like, hey, do you want this? And there are others who are like, oh my God, tell me more about this. Tell me what I'm going to like. Here is what and I think that's like, it really comes down to human behavior always.
Yes.
And so the question is always, what is not going to change with the new technology? Are people always going to want magic in their lives? Are they always going to want convenience in their lives?
Yes.
Are they always going to connect with others to belong, to signal their identity? Think about those things.
Yes. Yes.
They're not going to change.
Right.
And, and then say, hey, how does this fit in? So if I can interact with the billboard, ask why would I want to do that? I'm not saying I don't.
Not while you're driving.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's sort of like, why would I? Oh, maybe if I can talk to my mom, or maybe if I can, if I can post that on my social media, so I can signal my status or something. So it always comes down to those social and emotional needs that we have.
Yes. Yes. Just because you can do all these features, does it mean that you should? Are they actual? Are they practical? Are they making a difference? All that good stuff.
Correct.
I fully
and
agree.
do they emotionally resonate? Do they fulfill your social needs as well?
Correct. I want to quickly come back to just nostalgia, because you've hit on that. And do you think, I'm fascinated by that, where today is 80 years since D-Day, right? There's all these people are posting things. It is, yeah, June 6th, yeah. So people are posting things, pictures from Omaha Beach and things like that. My grandfather or great-grandfather. Just curious, does AI, and I assume it's a yes, but what does AI do for us from a nostalgia to keep bringing back opportunities and influence from the past? And is that that's a good thing, obviously.
You can talk to your grandfather. Imagine if you actually had a situation when you can create a composite of all those stories that oral history, because it's really about how do you bring history back to the present. And we all love the movies. We all love storytelling. So if AI, humans are storytelling animals. If AI really comes in and you say you can actually interact with your grandfather and ask him questions about D-Day, and you create a composite of all those experiences based on oral or written history, that's something that is has a crazy freaky emotional dimension,
Totally. And if you can go into their closets at that point in time and look at what they were wearing.
Or you can see how that world looked like. And I mean, I think what AI really is going to bring forward is the ability to talk to our deceased family members.
I think we're pretty close, right? I mean, you can create a version of them at this point and then preserve them in that instance and interact with that person or image or whatever.
So I think it's just it's a way to tell a story.
Last question for you, because then we're tight on time. If there's one thing that AI at this point is not quite there yet on, but you'd like to see happen, a development that
storytelling. I know I cut your question short, but I feel very strongly about it, because when you tell ChatGPT, it's hey, ChatGPT, tell me a story of Little Red Riding Hood from a perspective of Duracell batteries. It's super clunky, It's still really, really clunky, but again, it's first generation.
We're coming on this. Great. Yeah. So nice to meet you, and so nice to talk to you. Thank you for your time.
Great questions. Really enjoyed this.
Of course.
Really enjoyed. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.